Hey everyone, welcome back to Keto and Crime and Thought Crime. Today we're continuing on with Televangelists. I'm still in Chattanooga. This is my last day of filming here. We will be heading home. And so next time, coming to you from our normal set with our curio cabinet and everything. In the meantime, got some hopefully nice hotel art behind you, and that is not a large rodent back there. That is my poodle Teddy. So he says hello. Anyway, so let's dive into this. Last time we covered where the whole televangelist prosperity gospel came from, and today we're and then got through several of the televangelists, from Oral Roberts to Pat Robertson to Kenneth Copeland and Jesse Duplantis. And now we're going to get into probably some that are more well-known. Of the ones that we covered last week, I think probably Pat Robertson was the most well-known. But today we're going to dive into some that are up to here in controversy. So let's dive in with number one. Oh, and a great shout out to my patrons, my channel members. Thank you so much. You can join them by the links down below. If you want to subscribe, please do. I hope this is the day I earn my subscription. Also, it's pretty cloudy here, so I don't have the natural light that I normally have. So I'm making the best of it. I think I'm probably an odd color, but I'm making the best of it. So thank you so much. And I hope if you haven't subscribed, today's the day I earn your subscription. And with that being said, without a whole lot of talk, let's jump into John Hagee.
Birds propel, eagles don't propel. We said, oh God, 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 oh God.
The Old Testament, and in the Living Bible it says that white hair is the crowning glory and is seen most amongst the godly.
About ready. The phone rang on my desk on a Monday morning, and I'll call the lady Miss Smith. She phones and says, "Is this Pastor Hagee?" I said, "Yes, it is." She said, "Would you come and pray for me?" I said, "Why did you call me?" She said, "Well, you have a sign out there in front of your church for prayer call, and I'm calling you." I said, "Okay." I said, why do you want me to pray for you?" She said, "I think I have a demon spirit." Now, I had never heard that over a phone. I'd never heard a teaching on it from my denomination. And I said, "Are you a member of my church?" And she said, "No." And I put my hand over the phone and said, "Thank God." You know, thank God. And so she said, "But I still want you to come and pray for me." And I said, "Okay, I will. Where do you live?" So I took her address down, and I drove over to her house. And it was a mansion. She came to the door, immaculately dressed. She's a tall woman, dressed in solid white. I thought it was something strange that we would talk about the Prince of Darkness, and she's dressed totally white. We walk into her den. That was a beautiful den. She sat down on a white leather couch, and I said, "Tell me your story." She said, "My husband is an executive. He's out of town 5 days a week, and I have a lot of time on my hands, and I've been playing tarot cards." And I said, "That's not good." I said, "So tell me, why does that require prayer?" And because I'm looking for a card out of there. And she was very intelligent. And so she said, "Well, I was playing cards 2 nights ago at that table. And as I'm playing cards, the front door of my house opened, and I heard something walk down the hall, and it entered me." And at the
Yes, that gentleman was John Hagee on a Christian talk show that he went on not long ago. As you can see, he does have a sense of humor. I think he is probably, if you had to be in a room with one, had to be and had to carry on a conversation, he might be the better one for that. But that doesn't mean that the crazies dialed down any more than any other. John Hagee is well known for a couple of things. His support of the state of Israel, and this is not a political statement, he is just a part of the sect of televangelists and just evangelical Christians in general that believe that the end of the world is like this year, and they've been believing that since like 1985. They believe that the state of Israel has a whole lot to do with bringing that on, and therefore they try to insert themselves into politics where Israel is concerned to bring that about. I know I've mentioned it before, but there is a phenomenal documentary here on YouTube called Waiting for Armageddon, and I highly recommend you watch it. I will link it below. But it's free. At least the last time I watched it, it was. And it is kind of a deep dive into the whole spirit of evangelical Christians and their end-time beliefs. Now, it's about 10 years old, so even the ones in this definitely missed their predictions, but it centers in on televangelists like Hagee, showing how they tend to manipulate the political opinion of their constituents and their parishioners to help bring about certain events, to bring about the end of the world. There are literally people, and I believe Hagee is one of them, that is waiting for the end of the world so he can sit around with popcorn and watch people suffer and die. I mean, I literally get that vibe from him. So he's famous for that. He started Christians United for Israel, and basically is famous for talking about, even though he supports the state of Israel, he has uttered some very anti-Semitic statements. He's also been quite critical of Islam and Catholicism. And about 4 years ago, he got into some issues when he promoted the blood moon prophecy. If you remember, I think it was 2016, there was actually a series of blood red moons that NASA and other astronomers had actually predicted, and Hagee has written a book on relating them back to prophecies in both the Old Testament and Revelation, saying that the blood moon is a harbinger of the end of the world. So, of course, missed that, but those are what he is most known for. He was born and raised in the San Antonio, Texas area, where he has founded a series of churches since 1966, the biggest of which is Cornerstone Church, and that is where he preaches from today. He began to jump onto the public spotlight primarily because of his political affiliations and his promotion of the State of Israel, with his Night to Honor Israel, which is a gathering of Christians to support the Jewish state. Now think about the irony in that very, very title. But yeah, that was it. And he has continued that cross, only upping the ante. He believes in what is known as Christian Zionism, which is a belief that a lot of Christians hold, that say that the return of the Jewish people to the state of Israel in 1948 have important biblical prophecies and important implications for the fulfillment of Christian end-time prophecies. So think of these Christian Zionists, at least these particular ones, as using the Jewish people for the promotion of their own self-interests, because that's how they look at it. In fact, you would probably think that Hagee is a huge proponent of Jewish and Christian unity. No, 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 no. He's only for the state of Israel as far as it can further the Christian doctrine, not the Jewish doctrine. He is all for converting the Jews to Christianity before it is too late, and has also had ties to what is known as Messianic Jews, which are people that are culturally Jewish, but yet they believe in Jesus as the Messiah. It's a whole thing I don't understand. Maybe I'll do a deep dive on that. If you guys and girls are interested, let me know down below. But his beliefs have garnered him some hate. He has to walk around with bodyguards and protective vests. He basically has gotten himself into a bit of trouble, a bit of international drama for some of his statements, which we're going to look at right now. He believes that homosexual behavior and abortion is the cause of so many natural disasters. He literally blamed gay sex for Hurricane Katrina. And I got to tell you, if gay men and lesbians had that kind of power over the weather, there wouldn't be much more going on than perhaps glitter storms and lesbians with Home Depot cards standing by for home improvements. That's the kind of power. That's how we would wield power, in my opinion, at least the gay people, the fellow gay people that I know. So I don't think that gay sex is causing natural disasters, but he believes it is. He also believes that abortion is the bane of our existence. And hey, I'm kind of divided on abortion. I believe in a woman's right to choose, but I also don't think I could ever have one. So there you go. But he actually cut some ties with Israel when they legalized abortion not long ago, and his controversial statements on other religions besides evangelical Protestantism has gotten him into trouble. Let's talk about his views on Catholicism, shall we? In the early 2000s, he purportedly reported a saying on his televised sermon that it was Hitler's Catholicism that fed his anti-Semitism, and that under Pope Pius VII helped bring about Nazism. So he's literally bringing the Catholic Church into the blame for Nazism just because Hitler happened to be a Catholic. Now, that's like blaming me if another lesbian commits an atrocity. Just because we're kind of from the same cloth doesn't mean we are the same. But he did issue an apology to all of the Catholic Church on May 12, 2008, and it was accepted by the Vatican. So he did make amends for that. So, for all his love of Israel, his next very racist statements are about the Jews. He is reportedly saying that Adolf Hitler was born from a lineage, and this is his words, not mine, accursed, genocidally murderous half-breed Jews, alluding that Hitler was half Jewish. So I don't know the lineage of that man, and I'm sure I'm going to get demonetized by Susan for even saying his name, but I don't know. I would have to research that, but that basically Hitler was a self-loather. You just blamed it on his Catholicism, and now you blaming it on him being half Jew. And he also reportedly said that the Antichrist would be a Jewish homosexual, probably half Jewish, resembling Adolf Hitler. Well, there you go. Just look out for somebody that looks like Moe from the Three Stooges that also happens to be wearing glitter and dancing in the gay pride parade, and there's your Antichrist. Sure, John. Sure. He's also said that Islam is a religion of violence, but then if you read all the scriptures, most of the Abrahamic religions, including Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, are kind of violent, particularly if you read the Old Testament that is in the Christian tradition. And then the book of Revelation, yeah, they're all kind of violent. So that is not unique to people of the Islamic faith. And he also basically said that Muslims' greatest wish is to kill Jews and Christians. I mean, the Crusades were a thing. So I think it's probably a little bit of all. I say that most religious people that follow every word of their holy book, every word, have some violent tendencies towards people of other religions, except with the exception of maybe Buddhists. But there is a tendency there to be quite tribal. So I don't think that's unique to Islam. I've always said that Islam, as it's practiced in the Middle East, has not yet been through the same renaissance that Christianity and Judaism have. And they will get there. And you will have, whereas the majority of practicing Jewish and Christians today are what I call culturally, they don't really practice every word of their religious books. If not, they'd be a bunch of hate mongers too. So eventually it will turn where the majority of people practicing Islam are practicing westernized, more moderate Islam, and I think a lot of the issues will go away. What you have is a problem with radicals that kind of consumes the headlines. And I say that for anything. Anytime you find a violent act in the name of anything, it can always be tied to some radical. So I think we have to stop looking in black and white. We have to look in kind of gray to see the truth there. Anyway, I'm getting off my soapbox now. Sorry. And then, of course, in 2013, 2014, he wrote his book along with co-author Mark Biltz on the blood moon prophecy, which he said that the triad of blood moons that started to appear between 2014 and 2015 would bring in the end of the world by September 28, 2015. Funny how he got that book out in time to sell it, though. That's funny. Give me your money before the world ends. Got that wrong, John. And that is John Hagee. Yeah, he's a barrel of laughs. But like I said, I think based on the videos that I've seen of him when he's not performing, I think he would be one of the few that you could actually might have a decent conversation with in private. And with that, we're going to jump ahead into another real dandy, Robert Jeffress. Another Texan. And have you noticed that a lot of these ministers are from Texas and Oklahoma? Oral Roberts was Oklahoma, Ken Copeland is Texas, John Hagee is Texas, Robert Jeffress is Texas. Have you just noticed that Texas and Oklahoma tend to have more than their average amount of these? So I'm just saying, something in the water over there. But Robert James Jeffress Jr., born November 29, 1955, he's a Southern Baptist minister, author, speaker. He is pastor of the 14,000-member First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas, and is a Fox News contributor. He basically has two shows. He has Pathway to Victory, which is broadcast as both a television and radio broadcast weekly. He also writes and blogs and has a hugely successful YouTube channel. So he was born to his father, Robert Jeffress Sr., and his mother, Amy. And he received a Bachelor of Science degree from Baylor University in Waco, Texas, a Master of Theology from Dallas Theological Seminary, and a Doctor of Ministry from Southwestern Theological Bible Seminary. Of all the ones we're going to study, he is probably the most formally educated. And when I say formally, I mean in actual, like, real, recognized colleges, like pretty prestigious colleges, like Baylor, except for Pat Robertson, who went to Yale Law School, but Baylor University, the Dallas Theological Seminary, and the well-known Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. So he's going to be probably the most educated because he has literally two doctorates, one from Southwestern and one from Dallas Baptist University, which was a kind of a honorary degree. He was actually a very prolific card player, appearing in 1986 on the game show Card Sharks, and he won about $4,500 as a 4-day champion. You can still find those episodes on YouTube if you're so inclined, so kind of a bit of a gambler. He grew up in First Baptist of Dallas and actually became a protege to the longtime pastor 𝗬𝗪 and is the one that actually influenced him to become a minister. He became pastor of First Baptist on August 12, 2007, and has since grown it by several thousand members. He basically came to fruition and popularity as a result of the presidential run of Donald J. Trump. He was an avid Trump supporter. I think at the time, he was just a minister that supported Trump like a lot of ministers did. They often support the Republican candidate, no matter who they are. That's not unique to Trump. But they often support the conservative candidate, no matter who. And he actually became quite notorious when after the Unite the Night rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in summer of 2017, Jeffress did condemn, he was one of the few that did condemn the white supremacy that was there in those no uncertain terms. He said, let there be no misunderstanding, racism is sin, period. Turned around and backed that up in another interview saying that white supremacy and neo-Nazism are repulsive and totally contradictory to the teachings of God, and even said in an interview on Christian Broadcasting Network on the 700 Club that there has been a failure on the part of the church, especially on the conservative evangelical church, to denounce racism, and they have often embraced segregation, which is so wrong. So, what do I say about that? Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Way to go, Robert. I totally agree with you on just about everything that you said there. In the summer of 2017, in the face of the DACA, the Dreamers Act controversy, he said of Donald Trump that the president is one of the most compassionate people I've ever been around, and is torn under his compassion for these people that came here under asylum and wanting to seek, and his want to build a stronger America for the natural-born citizen. I'm not taking an opinion on that. I'm just telling you what he said about Donald Trump. He has also spoke out against gun violence, believe it or not. After the Las Vegas massacre in October of 2017, Jeffries actually said on Fox News that it is proof that evil exists. He also said the same thing about the Charleston church shooter, and that some sort of reform is warranted. So, dude's not all crazy. But then he's also come out to say that gay is not okay, citing Romans 1:27 as his source for that, as well as other scriptures saying that what homosexuals do is filthy, degrading, and all marriages are counterfeit. He also came out and spoke against other religions, saying they all reject the prophetic nature of Christ and therefore aren't true religions. I think the people that practice those religions would probably, disagree, but here is a video of Mr. Jeffries speaking on homosexuality, if you're interested.
There is a disproportionate amount of assault against children by homosexuals than by heterosexuals. You can't deny that, end quote. But the American Psychological Association kind of denies that. Yeah. So, I mean, where did you get that information from?
Well, the fact is, there are 20 to 40% of all child molestations occur among people that are homosexual or bisexual. 20 to 40%. You say, well, that's a minority. Yes, but the fact is that the homosexual population is much less than the heterosexual population. And so for that reason, there's a disproportionate amount of attacks, which is verifiable. But the point is, I've said very clearly, homosexuality is a violation of God's standard, but so is adultery, so is premarital sex.
Sure.
Anything that is different than God's plan of one man with one woman in a lifetime relationship is wrong. Mm-hmm. And I preach all of that message. The good news is God forgives any and every sin, whether it be lying, cheating, homosexuality, or adultery.
And why am I so caught up on their opinions on LGBT rights? Well, first of all, I am in the LGBT community, but in so many of these cases, their beliefs on these certain topics is so much a part of their identity. Their beliefs on other religions, their beliefs on homosexuality, their beliefs on racial relations, all of that is such a part of their personality. You kind of have to address it. You can't really get around it, because some of the most hateful stuff they've ever said is as a result of that. But being that he is a little different than the other televangelists, he still is just the preacher of a megachurch rather than a national celebrity like the others. He, I think, would fall more in line with your average evangelical minister than an actual televangelist. But I did want to bring him on here because he has been so controversial. He did condemn Mitt Romney's presidential run in 2012, calling the LDS Church from the pit of hell. He also said that if Jews do not convert, they will go to hell. So he's a very nice guy to hang around. I'm sure you just want to have him at your kid's birthday party. In December of 2010, he established a naughty and nice list in which local Dallas businesses were ranked on whether they openly celebrated Christmas, not the holidays, but Christmas, and urged his parishioners not to solicit or to use any of those businesses that do not openly say Merry Christmas or celebrate Christmas. It's kind of a Josh Fehrenstein thing here, I suppose. He also became one of Trump's top evangelical advisors and claimed that Trump was God-ordained to take out Kim Jong-un of North Korea, but that didn't happen. So, yeah. That's Robert Jeffries. Let's move on, if you dare. Next, we have literally the son of a legend. We have William Franklin Graham III. He is the son of famous evangelist Billy Graham, who I think of all televangelists in all the world was probably the most honest and the most noble in what he did, even though I don't agree with him, but this is his son. He was born July 14th, 1952. He grew up under the tutelage of his father as both a minister and a missionary. He still does carries on as his father's steads of doing the crusade type tours in which they go to stadiums and auditoriums and do the old-fashioned tent revival thing. It's more of a non-denominational thing, and there's less Pentecostalism at Graham Crusades than you will find in other televangelists. But yeah, the major controversy around Billy Graham is just Billy Graham Jr. or Billy Graham III is just the amount of money that his organization brings in and how much actually gets turned out to help the people it's supposedly set to help. He's president and CEO of Billy Graham Evangelical Association and the Samaritan's Purse, which is an international Christian relief organization. He was ordained in 1982 and is from originally Asheville, North Carolina, son of Billy and Ruth Graham. He attended Latourneo College in Longview, Texas, but was expelled in 1972 for keeping a female classmate out past curfew. So, wild Billy. In 1974, he did graduate from Montreat College with an associate in science, and in 1978 with a BA from Appalachian State University, though it really doesn't say what he majored in. Started his preaching at Grace Community Church in Tempe, Arizona in 1982, and has since moved on to take on his father's legacy, his father's nonprofits, and to basically become the face of the Graham Evangelical Organization. But let's talk about the controversy surrounding him. With him, it's more about finances. So let's dive in. Samaritan's Purse, which is the international outreach to battle hunger and poverty around the world, mainly in children, had a 2010 federal tax return where they netted $414 million. And it was found that Graham was drawing a yearly salary of $622,000, which is the highest paid CEO of any nonprofit at that time. So we're talking like he was higher paid than, American Red Cross or any other nonprofit out there. As far as the Billy Graham Evangelical Association, it saw revenues of $112 million, and he was also drawing a high six-figure salary from it, along with Samaritan's Purse, as well as drawing his salary from his church. So Mr. Graham was very high paid. And because of the nonprofit status of all three of those organizations, Samaritan's Purse, the Evangelical Association, and the church, and Samaritan's Purse, the organizations paid absolutely zero federal income tax and probably zero state tax, based that they're based in pretty conservatively states. Now, there's always a lot of controversy about ministers themselves. If they draw a salary from non-profit work, they are taxed on that. They don't get away with absolutely zero federal income tax. But because he worked for nonprofits and was a minister, he was able to, according to experts, skirt quite a few taxes. So yeah, and then there was other controversies where the amount of revenues brought in based on the amount of aid going out from all of these charities were minuscule compared to it. So always kind of a contradiction there about what the money's meant for versus what it's actually used for. Now, beyond the money, other controversies he's well known for is predicting the end of the world in March 2011, which of course didn't happen, and then his stance on Barack Obama. He is probably one of the first to label Barack Obama as a Muslim, not a Christian, and actually, kind of perpetrated that whole rumor that went around that has never been proven. He led that whole thing. And then, of course, He's been an outspoken advocate of conversion therapy for LGBTQ members and called our whole existence an abomination. So I don't have a whole lot of love for Mr. Graham. Call it a personal thing if you'd like. But he did say that people that did conversion therapy were doing the Lord's work and it should be state mandated. He also led the North Carolina charge against same-sex marriage, actually being one of the ones that led to the establishment of wanting a constitutional amendment in the North Carolina Constitution to make homosexual marriage unconstitutional. And he also, of course, attacked 𝗂𝗏𝗃 during the most recent presidential election, saying it was an abomination he was even running. So, way to make friends there. So, in 2015, he came out in favor of Russian President Vladimir Putin's gay propaganda law and has praised the very stringent controls of homosexuals that Russia has in place. He also tried to basically cancel Duke University for having a couple of Muslim speakers, and he basically has had several national tours canceled in Europe, Australia, New Zealand because of his very violent stance on LGBTQ plus folks. So that's his superpower. His superpower has been revealed, and that superpower is hate. So I have to think that his father, the Billy Graham, is probably spinning in his grave, because I'm sure Billy Graham didn't care for homosexuals himself, probably didn't care for other religions, probably didn't care for a lot of the same things that his son is, but to actually put that out there in the public, it just wouldn't be done in Billy Graham's time. So I would think that the original Reverend Graham is probably turning in his grave right now. I'm just saying. And on that tall hate burger, we're going to end part 2 of Televangelists. When I come back next week, we will tackle both the Falwells, we will tackle Joyce Meyer, and we will tackle some other crypto crazies, and we will, delve a little bit further in, finishing up our expose on televangelists. I get asked about televangelists all the time, so I decided I can't possibly give them all their own video, but I can give you kind of an abbreviated look at what they are and what they stand for. And they all have one thing in common. They like to use morality to bring in the money while preaching prosperity and then hating on people different than themselves. So that seems to be the running gamut here of all these televangelists. But anyway, be careful who you get your inspiration from, folks. And until next time, keep on crime.